What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Raiders of the Lost Flicks live. I'm back here talking about the breaking news. The fans and cast members protest outside closed Disney parks. Now, why in the hell would we be talking about Disney theme parks? Because Disney, as you know, pretty much owns most of the movie landscape. And as you know, I've been very, very vocally frustrated this year about not being able to do what I do best, which is just going out to the movie theaters and reviewing movies and uploading those movies to YouTube. Instead, I have to deal with, nope, we're not releasing that because we can't make all the money. Nope, we'll put this on a streaming service, but we're going to have it be a remake of Mulan with none of the things that made Mulan fun. And on top of your paid service, we're going to charge you $30 to watch that motherfucker. But what I want to deal with is how in the hell did in less than a year Disney go from being the biggest giant movie mogul to being almost financially destitute, because none of the things that make them money are making them money, because all of the things they do to make money require people to be in large groups. And in the case of Disneyland fans in California, because of local COVID restrictions, they can't open the theme parks back up. And as a result, there's protesters outside the parks. This was breaking this afternoon, so I apologize that we're just getting this to you now. But yeah, this was the headline. Disneyland fans and cast members gather outside closed park to protest. California needs its happy place. And I'm not going to read the article, but I just want to show you right here. This is the signs. This is, California needs its happy place. I find this both troubling and sad and funny at the same time. I've been all over the place with this information all day long. Flair, what do you think? What do you think about this? I mean, this is just, Disney is your happy place at this point, and you can't even go there. Like, what? I don't even know where to go with this.
It's a sad commentary on where our society is, and not trying to drag politics into it. You get the former CEO of Disney, who is on a panel for opening parks for the governor of California, and he's basically told, all of his ideas are shot down, are told that you can't do that. It is a really, really, really sad commentary on where Disney is, because the parks basically fund movies.
Yes,
that's where their bread and butter is.
Also, one could argue that the movies are kind of a very large, overblown commercial for their parks.
Exactly. Walt Disney famously said, "Why do you think I put a mouse, in my animations? Because I have a recognizable marketing strategy of putting Mickey Mouse at the very front of my movies, and then getting people to come to Mickey's Playland." and there was, I hate to agree with you, Leo. I
have a feeling this is going to have something to do with it. And you know what, Leo? It's not going to matter who gets elected, because we're sure as hell not going to go down that road right now. We beat that road to death. It doesn't matter who gets elected. They'll probably open it up right after the elections. You're right. I think right now this is just, I don't know.
If Gavin Newsom allows them to, because right now Disney is ready, willing, and able to open up the park. They had those cast members ready to go. They had them sitting on their thumbs, waiting to open the park, and they got the stop sign thrown up at them. And that's why I truly believe that why they laid those people off is a big, giant fuck you to California.
Yeah.
They laid off more people in California than they did in Florida.
And,
so
California, it's no wonder there's a mass exodus in California anyway, just based on
three years ago recovery.
Yeah, you're one of them, right? So, but I was going to go somewhere with this, and I kind of lost my train of thought because we were talking. So, I don't know. This is what I want to talk about. I don't know anybody in my personal circle, okay, be it family, be it friends, be it extended internet friends. I don't personally know anybody that's gone to any of the open Disney parks, because I know the ones in Florida, I think, opened back up. But they've opened with like massive restrictions. You got to wear masks, and all the drinking fountains are closed down, and all this kind of stuff. Only so many people in line. I can't imagine that would be a good time, because it's not like they're not lowering the price of the park to get into there. It's just they're just taking away things that you would normally do because it's not safe or healthy or whatever they want to say.
Yes, Disney World is open in Florida, so is their other theme
Universal.
park.
Yeah, Universal opened back up, but Universal is not doing Horror Nights this year, because I had made a plan. I was going to go to Universal Horror Nights with Cody from Goober Brothers Entertainment, and that all got sidelined right after, because they straight up said they were going to cancel all that. So I was hoping I'd be to 1,000 so I could at least do a live stream from Universal Studios. It's going to happen one of these days, damn it. There's going to be a live stream for Raiders of the Lost Flicks, and some of these people that you see are going to be there with me, and we're going to live stream from the park, because that's my happy place. I've been to Disneyland. I was not impressed. I felt like it was a big shopping mall. I felt like I paid to go into a shopping mall with some shows.
Well, it's changed over the years. Being from California, having family that lives, okay, I'll be honest. My grandmother lived 7 miles from Disneyland. I could, on a clear day when the ocean breezes were coming in, you could see the top of the Matterhorn from her front porch before it turned into a ghetto. But I digress. So for me, I've only been to Disney World in Florida once, and I hated it. So, for me, Disneyland was everything I enjoyed, because I'd been there so many times. I knew exactly where I wanted to go, exactly what I wanted to do. And, you skip Main Street because that's where they're trying to sell you just about everything, under the sun. Mm-hmm. But it has, over the years, I will admit freely that it changed massively, probably early 2000s, late 90s, like 99 into the early 2000s, when they started becoming so bloated with these IPs that they were buying up. They were trying to.
I want to talk about right there was the fact that
shove them into Disneyland where it really wasn't. It wasn't a good fit. Yeah. So to go into where you were leading, let's talk about all the IPs they've purchased and go with that.
It seems to me that let's back up a little bit though. There was a time, and it seems like so long ago. Okay, that there was but both Flair and I are close to the same age, so we can remember there was a time when Disney was kind of a sign of quality. It was a brand that you would associate, like the movies that they were putting out, like every one of them, even the ones that maybe weren't as popular, had a huge box office return. You had your Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, Little Mermaid, those kind of movies. You know, even some of the not so popular ones like Tarzan and
you had
Hunchback of Notre Dame. People would still go to them because there was a level of effort that was put into making those movies, and more importantly, they weren't coming out every year.
Yes.
And Flair and I had a really, really interesting discussion about that offline. That a lot of what has happened to Disney is that they've turned into a logo factory. They just pump out logo after logo. See the movie, buy our product, buy our product, buy our product, buy our product. But they're not letting any of these things, you know, hold any value. You know, I mean, they're not naturally, you know, gaining any kind of a following. It's just they're constantly throwing something at you, and they tell you to blindly consume. Most of those movies that I just mentioned, there was like a lull of a couple of years in between those movies coming out. Now it's like they have to put out like 10 freaking movies. What was it a couple of years ago? They had like 10 different movies out in 1 year between the Marvel stuff and the Disney stuff.
But then you also had stuff like Sword in the Stone. You had the old classics that, you know, according to them, you know, they would open the vault and put out a fresh release, and people waited years to get those releases. That you know, I can remember when Bambi was, you know, had been put into the vault, and they weren't going to release it for 5 years, and people were like, "Oh my God, how can we live without Bambi?" And it was like, so when they put out a beautiful package deal of Bambi, and I think there was the Thumper movie, you know, that they had spun out in the 90s, that, you know, people bought that in massive numbers because they were going to put it back in the vault, and it wouldn't come back for another 5 years.
They were smart about that.
They had a great marketing team that said, you know, that stuck with Walt Disney's mentality of keep the people wanting. You know, don't just, you know, instant gratification means that, you know, as we were discussing earlier, the law of diminishing returns.
I was just going to ask you to bring that up because Flair and I both went to college, okay, and we loved marketing. That was like one of our favorite. Like me personally, if I hadn't been trying to become a journalist, okay, I would have changed.
Hello, Richard Peter.
I could have changed my I could have changed my major to marketing. I still could. I still could go back to school and very well change my major to marketing. But what I don't understand is even at base level marketing, they teach you the law which we just mentioned. Go ahead and say it again, Flair, because I screwed it.
Law of diminishing returns. It's both in marketing and economics.
The law of diminishing returns, and the easiest way to explain it is too much of a good thing is never a good thing. When you have too much product to consume, people lose interest and they stop buying this stuff. And it starts becoming to where you can't sell it anymore. Disney has done this with literally everything that they bought. They did it with Star Wars. And I argue with friends of mine, a good friend of mine, I'm not going to make fun of him on air because he's a good friend of mine, but he's like, I told him, I says, so-and-so, it's not, they're making the Star Wars movies too fast. And I think it was right after Rogue One and just when they were announcing Solo and they were starting to have their problems. And he's like, well, I'm just excited that there's going to be a Star Wars movie every year. And I'm like, how is that a good thing? And he goes, what the hell are you talking about? I says, they're making them too fast. I says, they're cranking these things out. Not only are they cranking them out too fast, they're cranking them out all out of order so that people don't know what's going on anymore. At least, you know, about 10 years ago when 10, 20 years ago when the prequels were coming out, there was a few years and everybody knew what the prequels were. Now it's like you got Solo over here, Rogue One over here. That one happens at the end of this, but before that, in between this, and then you got Solo, which is before this, and you can't expect people to keep up with that shit.
Well, and
you can't expect people to constantly consume that stuff.
It's also in my, you know, humble opinion, that the quality went from a Cadillac to a fucking Yugo.
Well, it even got to the point to where some of their sternest supporters, and I'm not going to mention those names, you know, the big movie channels, okay? One particular guy that I watch, I'm not going to mention him by name, I'm still subscribed to his channel and I like him a lot, okay, was a very big fan of The Last Jedi, okay? Now, if you're a fan of The Last Jedi, that's fine, okay? We're not. Okay. We know a lot of people in the Phantom Menace, and the reason we know a lot of people in the Phantom Menace is because we didn't like The Last Jedi, but that's neither here nor there. He defended that movie because I will give him this, all right? As much as we hate that movie, it definitely had a vision. It's a strange one, but it had a vision.
I think somebody dropped some acid before it had that vision, right. But you and me.
This same movie critic, because not even 6 months after that movie came out, did a review of Solo, and he says this one very much feels like a product. And that's exactly what the Star Wars movies became. They became a product, and that's why I say Disney became a logo factory. There was no heart in anything that they were doing. There's no heart when I see all these constant movies being announced. We're going to remake Lion King. There was a live-action reboot. We're going to do a live-action reboot of Aladdin. We're going to do a live-action reboot of Cinderella. We're going to do a live-action reboot of 101 Dalmatians. We're also going to do Mulan. I'm like, oh my God, stop it already. And you see what's happened with Mulan. They had the audacity to put that for $30 just to watch once on a streaming service, which you are already paying for.
That you'll get for free if you just wait a month.
If you just wait for a month, which if you have any common sense at all, you'll do. Because I'm sorry, if you were so desperate that you had to pay $30 to watch the live action reboot of Mulan, I'm sorry, okay? Everybody's having a rough year, but if you're having such a rough year that you got to spend $30 on Mulan, I'm really sorry. Okay, I'm sorry if things have gotten that bad for you. Watch my channel, especially on Friday nights. We'll show you some stuff I guarantee you haven't seen that is better than Mulan. Okay.
Plus, you know, as someone who has Disney Plus, I'm going to say this, that I don't have Disney Plus. I have it for two reasons. The back catalog of cartoons that you can find nowhere else, and The Mandalorian. And, you know, my family discussed getting, once The Mandalorian was gone, you know, the first season was gone. We discussed getting rid of it, and then
I did the trial. I watched The Mandalorian, and I was like, gone, bye.
And about the time, you know, we really kind of decided that we were going to do away with Disney Plus. They announced, you know, a month later it's going to be, oh yeah, by the way, it's coming October 30th. Okay, great. So we'll just keep it. No, I'm not paying that much, and you know, I'm paying, you know, $6.99 for it with my Hulu account, so I'm not really losing out on anything. But it's just the point that Disney Plus is not the juggernaut, as you so aptly put it. You know, Disney Plus is not that juggernaut that they.
You know why? You know why Disney Plus is not the juggernaut they think it is? Because I figured it out when I first got it. When I first did the trial, because you guys were talking about The Mandalorian without avail. By the way, I want to acknowledge Richard Greeter in the chat. He said Disney ruined Star Wars. I can't forgive them for that. We can't either. Okay, we can't.
Amen, brother.
We can't let that go. You know, because I've mentioned to a lot of people. Star Wars is one of those things that's never really been ruined before, because even though
heavy metal,
you might say that like The Phantom Menace was a terrible movie, but it wasn't terrible enough to ruin the universe completely. Okay, you might not have liked what they did with certain characters or like their origin stories, but it didn't completely deconstruct the universe. But anyway, back to my train of thought. When I did the trial for Mandalorian, I wanted to watch that so that I was able to talk with you guys about that, because you guys were all talking like, this is the way, and you were doing that, and I wanted to join in that conversation too. Damn it,
those were good times. I did not do that.
You did, and that was before I had you on the show. But some of the guys that were on my other channel were like, "This is the way." I'm like, "All right, damn it, I need to know what the hell you guys are talking about before you, so that we can talk." And they were very good about not spoiling that show for me. But it got to the point to where I was becoming the wet blanket, the only asshole that hadn't seen it yet. They're like, well, just get the free trial. I'm like, yeah, well, I don't have that particular thing on my Comcast or whatever to get that. So I'll just do the free trial and I'll watch them all and then I'll let go of my free trial. But what I noticed while I had that service, not only was the browser very buggy, okay, which is to be expected, I guess, when you first launch a streaming service for the browser to be buggy, but this is the streaming war. You have to make sure that these things work. I go through this with literally every fucking video game that ever comes out. Well, we didn't know this many people were going to be playing online at the same time. I'm like, you have been advertising the shit out of this game for months. You didn't think more people were going to play it? You wanted everybody to play it. I'm sorry if you couldn't handle the server. But anyways, I'm getting off track here. The thing I noticed about the streaming service, other than the buggy browser, was the fact that there's a lot of cartoons on there. And unless you watch those cartoons as a kid, or you have a lot of kids, if you're an older guy like one of us, like I'm 46 years old, I don't want to watch those.
Well,
And the ones that I do want to watch, I already got them all on Blu-ray. I don't need Disney Plus to watch those.
Unfortunately, they never released a lot of the like Darkwing Duck.
Okay, the cartoon shows I'll give you.
When I would come home, and this is I'm going to out myself as a complete and utter geek, but I'm pretty sure that that's obvious from the way I talk. But I used to watch. I would come home from high school, and before I went to work at night, they would have the afternoon cartoons, and I would sit and I would watch DuckTales. I would watch Darkwing Duck. You know, the one with the plane. I loved the plane, and I loved
DuckTales,
Gargoyles. You know.
I know a lot of people that grew up with those cartoons, and I think this is maybe where you and I went in different paths. Me personally, I was always partial to Warner Brothers cartoons. I liked Bugs Bunny. I liked Daffy Duck. I love Tom and Jerry. That's the stuff that I like. I liked the really funny old cartoons, even when I was a little kid. Those are the ones I grew up on. I grew up watching. I know Lower Red might know. If you grew up in Chicago, you know, back in the 70s, it was the Bozo Show. You watched Bozo Circus every fucking day. You know, that was my thing. I had to watch the Bozo Show, or I couldn't function for the rest of the day. And the Bozo Show had all the good old cartoons, the ones that are completely, probably politically incorrect by today's standards, but to me, they were damn funny. All right,
and that is why I own the Golden Collection of Looney Tunes. I have every one of that box set because those are the unedited versions. Because they have the problem I have with purchasing current day versions of Tom and Jerry, of try to find Dastardly and Muttley on. I have a box set of it from years ago that I can walk out into my hall right now and grab, because it is considered, you know, unpolitically correct, because they're making fun of, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, why do you put so much thought into a simple children's cartoon that made fun of you know, World War I?
You and I are going to talk off air because I want to get some of that stuff from you. Damn it, you have a thing that I want. I want to acknowledge this comment right here. It says Richard Greeter says, and yes, Heavy Metal is one of my favorite animated movies. Heavy Metal, Galaxy Express 999, Adieu Galaxy Express 999, Captain Harlock, Arcadia of My Youth, Star Blazer 2199, Akira, love animation. Yeah, I think
I just saw that, man, and that's so cool, because so many people give me grief because I own the deluxe extended version of Heavy Metal, the original.
I have it as well. Even though I'm not a really big anime guy, I've always loved that series because I preach about this a lot. I'm a huge fan of anthology movies, and Heavy Metal is a magnificent anthology cartoon. Anything that has a series of short stories, I love, because when you do short stories within a movie, you trim out all the fat and all the padding, and you have to get to the point and deliver that story. And you have to do it within a 2 hour time frame. So, and not to mention, Heavy Metal is one of those movies where you're really looking at that animation like, wow, that must have taken thousands of hours to do. There he goes. He has it right there. I don't have that edition, but I have the Blu-ray. Yeah.
This is another. This is an anime, but it's called Black Lagoon, and it is short. It is the short stories, but they all weave into a central story. And I kid you not, this is probably in my pantheon of amazing anime and animation. This is probably in the top 5, if not the top 1. And I've seen a lot of anime in my day. you have a thing that I want, Groovinator. That's what she said.
Leave it to Leo Red to take something I say out of context. Damn it, Leo Red.
Oh, I love
you
it,
have
man.
a thing that I want. You have something that I need, Flare X. And we're going to talk about that. But yeah, those old cartoons are sought after. But the thing is Disney Plus, back to what we were talking about, doesn't have that stuff on their service because everything has to hit a certain demographic and people view things as offensive. And I think the worst is when you put the movies that are offensive on the platform and then edit them. Why would you even think about putting Uncle Remus's the Uncle Remus movie, whatever the hell that one was called, Song of the South? Why would you even think? Why would you even think about putting that? Who in the hell? Where's the audience for that? There is no audience for that movie. Why even bother putting it on your streaming service at all? Just to say, I'll tell you why. Because you want to say I have this many movies on my catalog instead of that many movies. You know damn well nobody's going to watch that. But a few people actually went and decided to watch it, and they're like, oh, because they didn't announce that stuff had been censored, but yet they did censor it. And when I put out a single video about Disney censoring content, I had all these thumbs downs when I put that out. And I'm like, really? Are you going to pretend like this isn't happening? Are you cool with censorship? Do you like paying for censored content? Do you like paying money to be told what you're supposed to watch? Because essentially that is what the hell you're doing.
And that is the ultimate frustration I have with my cable subscription or my Dish Network that puts Cartoon Network on, and Cartoon Network edits Tom and Jerry. And I am sitting there, I am a huge Tom and Jerry fan. I would watch I would watch that for hours and hours and hours. And then they started taking away, Jerry had a shotgun. Then he didn't have a shotgun. Jerry blew Tom up. Tom blew Jerry up. You know, it's like, wait.
They were entertainment. They were designed, those cartoons were actually designed for adults. But the kids were allowed to watch them. And I watched Tom and Jerry. I watched Beavis and Butthead. I watched Bugs Bunny cartoons. I didn't grow up and burn a cross on somebody's lawn. I didn't shoot anybody, and I didn't become a serial killer, and I never went to prison. So I'm just saying that it's okay to watch something as long as you know the difference between good and bad. As long as you are taught morals, the TV is not going to raise you. What that is that's for lazy-ass parents that don't want to tell their kids what they should watch and what they shouldn't watch, or tell them what's right and wrong. If you just want to let the TV raise your kids, that's unfair to everybody else because now we have all this censored shit. But yeah, I found the Disney Plus service to be very lackluster in its content. We could not find. It's definitely for a niche audience. It's for people that really love Disney, really love their old cartoons, or maybe don't want to have any Blu-rays or DVDs anymore. But for everybody else, I can find no reason to keep it. I'm not as nostalgic about some of those old shows as other people are. So I wasn't finding anything that I wanted to watch. I guess I'm just not as big of a Disney fan. I have certain movies that I absolutely adore. I adore Aladdin. I adore Pinocchio. You know, Beauty and the Beast. Hell, I still watch that. It makes my tears well up in my eyes. I'm not ashamed to admit it at this point. you know.
Well,
But
and so to answer Leo, yes, I have satellite because I live in the boonies now, and it's easier to have satellite so I can get my pay-per-view and not have to pay out the ass for satellite internet to keep a speed up that's worth anything. But honestly, this series changed animation.
mm-hmm.
Animaniacs truly did finally brought the. I have all three boxes of them too.
Mm-hmm. Everybody has their thing. I still have some. I have a set of GI Joe cartoons. Are those fun to watch anymore? No, but I just wanted them because it was part of my childhood. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean I want to pay. I don't want to pay $8.99 for a GI Joe cartoon channel. You know what I mean? Like some of this streaming shit is getting out of control, and you know it.
Well, and the sad part is they edit the Animaniacs was on Netflix. I could have watched them for free through my family own, having the service, but they edited them, and I truly prefer watching them uncut because I do enjoy the Animaniacs because they were a cartoon that was not for kids.
Yeah.
And I had the conversation when I was back in the back in the 90s with a friend of mine, and I said, you realize that cartoons are becoming not for kids anymore, right? And he goes, wait, explain that. And I said, you look at something like the Animaniacs and they're making a Heart of Darkness reference that a kid, it goes over like this. Shrek did the same damn thing.
Yep. I like those adult references. There's a lot of those in Aladdin too. I don't think any kid knew what Ed Sullivan was, but didn't stop and go saying, "Hey, we got a really big shoe tonight. Really big shoe." Yeah.
Richard, you already see America lecturing Japan about their problems with anime and such.
And you know what's sad about that too is like it's one thing that a director or a producer wants to take this kind of a stance with their films, like they want to lecture a certain audience or tell people how they're supposed to act or whatever, but they tap dance around it because they still want that Chinese money.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And China is smart. They don't want that's Baizu. They don't want none of that bullshit. They don't want none of that identity politics or wokeness. They don't want nothing to do with it. So they tap dance, they tippy toe around this shit, and they probably even cut it for the Chinese versions. They cut certain.
Well, you look at the poster for Star Wars that had over in America had a very prominent who's the guy that plays the black guy?
Finn.
And I'm trying. Who was it?
Oh yeah, Finn.
Finn.
I can't remember.
And then they cut him out.
John Boyega. Yeah, John Boyega. Yeah.
John Boyega. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm bad with names, and
so am I.
I should not go, oh, black dude.
My brain unfarted quicker than yours. That's all.
But you look at that poster that they cut him out of, and then they minimized his character. It just drives me nuts because he had such a great arc that could have been, but that's a whole other argument for another time. But I mean, you really look at they're tap dancing on a landmine.
Mm-hmm. They really are.
China's either going to blow up at them, or America's finally going to get off its soft little ass and tell Disney where to stick it. And I agree with you. That's a great thing, Richard.
I think Mulan is a starting point. I think because China was very adamant to reject Mulan, and they rejected it before. Pretty much everybody rejected that movie. I think they rejected it before the American audience did because of all the things that happened behind the scenes, all the things that the movie represents, certain things that actors said that we're not going to get into right now because we're pressed for time. But It had to deal with a lot of that invaded and it dealt with a lot of sensitive political things in China as well as here. Probably more so China, with the internment camps and stuff like that. So they had already rejected that movie. They still rolled the dice on it. Yeah.
Hong Kong is a touchy subject, and so is the internment camps. And as a right-wing idiot, I sit here looking at it going, when are we going to finally stand up for, we fought wars over this shit. We went to war to get people out of camps, even though we didn't know they were technically in the camps. But we now know, and no one's outraged by it. And I'm sorry if this is political. I forgive me.
Well, this is our pop culture channel, so I mean, this is kind of going to be. This is the show where a little bit of politics and pop culture entertainment are going to unfortunately collide, because these are the topics that this show is all about. So that it's totally.
You and I are both ex-military, and I
Yes.
fought. I'm an idealist at heart. I'm a realist, but I'm an idealist too.
I would be lying if I said I didn't believe in our leader when I joined the military. If I didn't believe in my leader, I wouldn't have joined the military when I did. I'm not going to say he was president at the time, but it was somebody that was controversial as usual, But at that time, I believed in my country, and I believed in my leader, and I believed I was doing the right thing.
I believed in the country, not the leadership so much.
Yeah,
because I joined under Clinton.
So I just let that cat out of the bag. Yeah, Clinton was. I voted for him. I joined. I believed in the guy.
I did, but you know what? That's honestly the politics. The politics aside, when did America give up its morals? Because we look at, we look at what's going on in Hong Kong. We look at what's going on in mainland China, the repression. And I'm not trying to make this a political rant, and I'm sorry for this, but I truly am sick to death of Disney beating me over the head with their politics. But the minute I say, okay, but what about this, and this? And I'm called the racist. I'm called they
always think that they're going to turn the tables on you. I'll tell you where I can trace it back to, and this is something that I associate with a lot of. You guys remember malls, okay? Long time ago, there's big buildings where people used to go and commerce, okay? Inside those malls, they had the Disney store, okay? Now, everybody's gone into a Disney store at some point in their life, where there is an airport or whether it's fucking Disneyland or Disney World. You've been in a Disney store, all right? You go in there, you look around, you go, good Lord, this shit is expensive. And then you turn around and you leave. Unless there's something in there that you absolutely are sure you can't find anywhere else, you don't buy anything, all right? What are the Disney stores full of? Helicopter parents. If you don't know what I mean by helicopter parents, I'm talking about the people that have raised their kids in the bubble, the same kind of people who have written toy companies and said that the toys that you're making are too dangerous for my kids, so much to the point to where it became a competitive hobby for them to say your toys are unsafe for my children. I walked through Toys R Us days before it went into liquidation. I walked around every single aisle because I used to go all up into my adult years, collected action figures, and I go to Toys R Us to get certain action figures. But I'm just thinking, if I was a parent and I had kids, are there any toys in here that I would buy for my kids? And all I saw was walls and walls of crap that has been sanitized to death, to the point to where these toys are not either good looking nor fun at all. Everything is completely safety oriented. There's no cap guns anymore. Even the sponge darts, the squirt guns don't shoot as far as they used to. All this stuff because of helicopter parents. So you've been brought up in this world that has sanitized, raised kids in a bubble to where they can't handle fucking anything. So now you got people screaming and yelling at you all the time if you say anything remotely offensive to them, because everything's offensive to them, because they were raised in a bubble and they're not tough. That is how we have gotten to this point, Flare X. I blame soccer moms and helicopter parents for this predicament that we're in right now. And that is the end of that rant. Sorry, I just kind of went all over the place with that.
But and it's a conversation I have had with a friend of mine whose kids are in college, and I said to him, get them the fuck out of the country for a while, send them to Africa, go let them see what the world is like, because in growing up, I didn't have that safe space to come home to. It was not a sanitary.
I mean, Flair, by today's standards, the stuff I did when I was a children, theoretically, I should be dead, according to today's standards. All right. Looking back, I'd say I had a pretty cool childhood. But
I had an awesome
by today's standards, we did things that were like, oh, no, you can't do that. You can't run around the backyard with fireworks in your hands. Are you crazy? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Half the stuff I did would be considered.
You went swimming unsupervised? Oh, my God.
Well, or flaming this or flaming that. You know,
you had caps. You had toys with caps in them. Caps with them.
I learned to shoot a 22 long rifle at 9 years old. Uh-oh.
But anyways, back to our Disney parks. They laid off what was it, 8,000 some people. I'm going to change this here real quick. They laid off 8,000 people in October. Because I looked up an article earlier today, and I didn't want to use it because it was kind of an older article. But you sent me a link to an article, because we send links back and forth to each other all day long. And
yeah, we do.
You sent me a link to an article that was similar, that basically they're going to do the same thing again, even more. This one says here, 8,800 part-time workers in Florida, part of Disney layoffs. So we're down 8,800 people already in a world that is suffering from massive unemployment due to coronavirus. Yeah.
That was 12 days ago. That was the earliest
one. Yeah. This is similar to the one that I saw back in October. Like is a similar. So there's there's more is what I'm saying. In all of these things that Disney makes right now, this giant logo churning juggernaut can't make this stuff, because you need people in your parks in order to make money. And as the studios have now admitted, you need people in your theaters in order to make money too. This vacancy of 25 people per showing shit ain't going to cut it.
No.
It ain't going to cut it. I get why they're doing it. I've mentioned this on previous streams. I feel really bad for movie theaters owners right now and movie theater workers. I feel bad for the Disney workers too. As much as I lampoon about how much I can't stand Disney, a job is a job, man. I ain't going to question why you work there. Maybe you love Disney. That's fine. Okay. I love some of their products, some of the stuff they made in the past. I like the idea behind Disney. I like the idea that somebody at one point wanted to make a happiest place on earth, but right now it's the least happiest place on earth. To me, it looks like a sign of complete, utter failure. And in fact, if you think about everything that's going on right now, it's like a bad Twilight Zone episode. It's the company that gained everything only to immediately lose everything the following year due to something a global pandemic.
The image in my head is Walt Disney as Jesus Christ in the temple, very, very, very angry and going, I could just see him in today's day and age raging through Disneyland, trying to clean out the money lenders and money changers, because they have taken his dream and shoved it up a dead horse's ass.
They really have.
Until the dead horse shit it out, and then they went, look at what Walt Disney did.
There's no drive or vision to this. This company has just become this tyrannical logo sucking machine, and it's bad. You know, we've been bitching about this for a while. I've been frustrated with Hollywood for a long time anyway. It's like, here I am, I have a movie channel, and I've got an entire system of movie studios that can't seem to unfuck themselves. Like they've been painting. I've been watching them paint themselves in the corner with all this political bullshit that they keep shoving into the movies, and it's made it to where it's not even fun for me to review these movies because they're so painful to watch. Case in point, Black fucking Christmas from 2019. I can't say enough bad things about that movie. That movie broke me. Okay, I saw Cannibal Holocaust and I laughed. Because compared to Black Christmas 2019, that movie fucking broke me. All right, because that is the worst case example of a movie that's so hopelessly woke, it's like a bad parody of itself. But that's just one part of the problem. You had that, like, movie theaters were kind of dying before all this started anyway. Now you've got states like California here where theaters and theme parks still have to stay closed because of local restrictions. So this is one case. This is the one part where I'm going to say this one isn't Disney's fault. They can't be open if the state says they can't be open. But it just amazes me, though, that they got to this point.
But that's the sick and twisted part of it.
Yes.
The state says they can be open, but if you follow this restriction and this restriction and this restriction,
and they can't follow it.
The former CEO of Disney he resigned from the commission that Governor Newsom set up to reopen the parks, and every idea that he came up with, and all these CEOs of the big parks, they were told, sit down, shut up, that's not right. And it is sick it cuts me to the bone, because I have loved Disneyland. I have a set of mouse ears, in a box somewhere that that have my name stitched in it from when I used to go almost every year. That was our vacation, was Disneyland. And it just makes me violently ill that so much is being shoved into it that shouldn't have been shoved there.
It's a lot of people trying to take these platforms and turn them into political platforms as well. It's like you said, being shoved in because you want to appease a certain demographic. And it's not fair. It's not fair. I've been dealing with that for the last couple of years. That's why I even started a YouTube channel. It's not fair watching your childhood hero be your childhood favorite thing being repurposed for a different audience and being repurposed for political pandering. You know what I mean?
Well, it goes back to what Richard Greeter said, that he's not right wing or left wing, and that's the problem. Is you see one group, and I see it both groups, because honestly, I as Adam and I were discussing earlier, I've honestly mellowed in a lot of ways, and I am sick to death of both sides pointing fingers at the other and not listening. Yeah. And I truly believe that if we just sat down, because there are left-wing individuals, there's right-wing individuals, and as he says, we need both wings to fly, and we need strong wings. And I love Americans. I don't care your politics. I care about the person. And the politics, we can agree to disagree, as long as we can have at least a conversation. You listen to me, I will listen to you, and then we can walk away. We can walk away agreeing to.
Part of this too, Flair, is that you and I come from a generation that predates social media, and
That's true.
We learned the old-fashioned way how to agree to disagree. You could have friendships, and I still, to this day, I don't base my relationships with people on what kind of political stuff they believe in. Every single one of my Raiders has a different belief than I do. I guarantee. We still get along.
Well, and it's not about scoring points on someone else.
No,
It's not about winning at all costs. And you know what?
It's like social media has turned everything that you do in life into a game where everything you do has to win, everything has to get a thumbs up, and everything has to be shared and retweeted and repurposed. It's sad what it has done to people. It has turned them into a bunch of like zombies where they're just, like a lot of people. And that's why you get all these crappy movies, because the studios have figured out that people will just blindly consume a logo and not question anything about it. Like, well, I have to go see it because it's Star Wars, or I have to go see it because it's a Transformers movie.
See, I think it's kind of like a Hydra. It's you cut one head off and two more grow back, and it's these studios, they're killing themselves.
Yeah, they really are.
The studios conditioned the consumer to want it this way and want it that, their way. And then when that model doesn't work anymore, and you've got something that's challenging that model, like as we've discussed, music industry and the streaming services, for what Napster did to the music industry, Netflix was trying to do to the television and movie industry. But the movie industry was more entrenched and harder to break. And I mean, you can still sail the seven seas.
Well, that's kind of, I want to bring it back to what we were talking about a little bit lawfully. You guys, Flair and I get together and we just immediately start talking. I'm like, man, I should probably hit the live button, but I schedule my stream for 10 o'clock. And if I hit my live button at 9:30, I'm cutting into my buddy Etep Kuyan's show, and that's not fair to him. And I don't want to do that shit. But we have some good discussions. And one of the things that we were talking about is all of these things that we're talking about tonight with Disney and the layoffs and all this kind of stuff. Sad as it may be, for one thing, we can't control it. Okay. But you can turn a negative into a positive, because this could very well fix a lot of the problems that we've been bitching about for the last 2 years.
Or at least
start talks. Okay. Because eventually, unless these companies want to go bankrupt, okay, because I guarantee you somewhere, somehow, Disney is sitting in a room with their top CEOs with the walls soundproofed, okay, and they're talking about, hey, worst case scenario, what do we do to save the brand? Do we hang on to all these properties? Do we sell off the IPs like we did before? Remember when Marvel was sold off by what's his name to a different studio, and then Disney bought it back later? That kind of stuff. Disney is going to have to either let go of some of their stuff, okay, or they're going to have to start scaling these movies back, or at the very least, because they need these movies in order for their theme parks to be a thing. They need their movies to sell too. They need people to consume entertainment, because you're not going to be able to run, Galaxy's Edge forever. You know what I mean? Because right now people aren't even going to it. You know what I mean? You're going to have to rebrand and make these parks stuff that kids like. And you're going to have to keep making things that kids like. And right now, I don't see a lot of it. I see a lot of sequels to things. I see them oversaturating the market with the same movie year after year after year, or remake after remake after remake, which I don't know how that stuff is fun to any kids, okay?
And it's so formulaic.
You're going to have a vision, yeah.
I mean, you can literally... I went on an MCU kick this weekend, and I went back and I watched the original Iron Man and the original Thor and the original Guardians of the Galaxy, the first ones of all of them. And I'm going to say this: why can't we go back to that? They had twists, but they were not formulaic. They were really, really good. And then I got to like Iron Man 3, and it was stopwatch. Oop, it checked the box. Stopwatch. And it's like, it drives me crazy when I can literally watch I haven't watched Endgame, but I watched the one where he actually did the fingers, and yeah, the finger snap. Thanos does the snap, and
COVID. Sorry.
it was so formulaic that I was like, okay, I kind of knew what was going to happen before it came, and I want. We were discussing on our little group with the guys from Friday night that I really miss a twist. Those movies that throw a story twist at you, where you watch the movie and it starts out as one thing, and exactly, Bill, exactly, sloppy, lazy.
Also, I want to bring this one up too. I've actually been turning toward older movies like Warriors, 1979, True Lies, 1994, Sniper, Life Force. Yeah, I actually did a review of that on this channel. So if you're not subscribed, Richard Reader, make sure you check out my my Life Force review.
Why are you reading names out of my movie pile?
Get out of my movie pile, you.
Yeah, get out of it, man! Out of it!
I'm glad you mentioned Life Force, because that one I would love to show on my channel if I can ever get a copy, to where my fans, because if you're not part of our Friday show, shameless plug time, we watch a movie online and we have it to where you can watch it with us. I can't show the movie through YouTube because YouTube hates that sort of thing. So what I do is I have you watch it in your own tab on your computer, and then we comment throughout the show, and then we score it at the end. Life Force is one that I would love to do, because that is my absolute favorite Cannon film. And the reason I like Cannon films so much is because those knuckleheads loved movies. There's no questioning that those guys loved movies enough that they were willing to take chances. They were willing to spend ridiculous budgets for things that theoretically shouldn't work on paper. If you were to hand a script to somebody right now and said, hey, Matilda May is going to be naked through most of this movie and just completely be naked through the entire thing, and they spend an exuberant amount of money, and you can tell that movie has a budget, especially towards the end. With John Dykstra and the special effects team, it's insane. But Life Force is an insanely good movie that wasn't successful when it came out, because if you look at all the movies that came out during that time, it had a lot to live up to. But if you look at something like that now, it's found its audience, because even the worst of that particular time frame was so much better than what we're watching now. Well, and if you subscribe to this channel, we will tell you about old movies that we guarantee that you'll like. So sorry about that.
Okay. There is more passion in one of these mummy movies than 10 modern movies. I cannot name the last modern flick that I have sat down and watched that has the passion Brendan Fraser has for this movie, for these movies.
I have two.
Okay.
Well, actually, I'll say, no, you know what? I'll narrow it down to one. The last movie that I saw in a theater that I thought was really, truly an amazing experience, and a lot of it was because of the filmmaker, was Mad Max Fury Road. I really, that was the last movie that truly moved me, seeing it in a theater, because it was so much grander than I ever anticipated something like that to be. Like it had more effort put into something than it probably deserved. Like I was shocked.
I do have to admit, I sat down and I watched Blade Runner 2049. And you know what? This is why I have so much hope for Dune. But Denis Villeneuve put so much passion into 2049, and I don't think he got the credit for it that he deserved, because that really was a good movie. But and that was, I'm saying more modern, like 2019. The last one I really saw that really expanded was 1917. Yeah. When they make a movie seem like one continuous shot,
That was a good one. Yeah.
That takes skill. That takes a writing team that knows what the fuck they are doing. And I'm sorry, but I watched that, and it had a twist. The person that they sold as being, warning, spoiler, the one that it was sold as being the story was based around, gets killed. How in the hell do you continue the story then? Oh, his buddy who was reluctant at the beginning takes that mantle.
It was a twist, is what you're getting. Yeah, it was the twist that took over that movie for sure.
And
there was a handful of good movies that came out towards the end of last year. Towards the end of last year, this movie there has been not much. Not much at all. I saw 1917 in January, but technically that was last year's movie, so I can't really count that. I saw movies like Doolittle, okay, in The Hunt, and Bloodshot. Bloodshot and The Hunt were the last two movies I saw in the theater.
At my local theater, the last they were running old movies. The last one they ran, and I am so glad I went and saw it, was Blade Runner 2049. To see it on a big screen with the theater experience, for lack of a better term, was just worth every penny I paid for it. And that to me is, if it can be that good, if movies can be that level of quality, and then we get something like Captain Marvel, which shits the bed, and then shit. I mean, Amber Heard has nothing on shitting on the bed for Captain Marvel.
Christ.
Not a damn thing.
I want to acknowledge some of these comments in the chat real quick, if you don't mind, Flair. So Richard Greeter, he likes your mummy collection. Bill Leavitt, sloppy, lazy writing. Yes. And one of the things that I wanted to mention about that is with the sloppy writing, prequels. I am so fucking fed up with prequels, because you don't have to establish the universe. It's already there. Okay. You don't have to establish the character. They're already there. So all you have to do is fill in a timeline between the movie you saw or fill in a small story before the movie you saw. So you already know what their motivations are. It's laziest writing. It's literally throwing shit against a dartboard and figuring out how to connect the dots. That's one. Bill Leavitt also says canon movies, pre-credit intro so classic. Yes, the canon logo makes me excited. And if you've never seen the documentary called Electric Boogaloo, you need to look that up on the internet. It's called Electric Boogaloo, The Wild Untold Story of Canon Films. Now, I'm not sure why they called the documentary Electric Boogaloo, because there's also a movie called Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo, which is one of Canon's films. So don't get those two mixed up. You want to look for Electric Boogaloo, The Wild Untold Story of Canon Films. It is my absolute favorite documentary. It's all about Golem Globus. Those guys are that documentary is hilarious. Yeah, that's another good thing I want to mention. Has there ever been a good prequel? No, not really. I like the Star Wars prequels, but if you were to ask me if they're my favorite, no, they're not.
In general, yeah, I would say Underworld: Rise of the Lycans.
There you go. Me personally, I can't think of one where I'm like, oh wow, that was a really great. Okay, maybe this is a stretch, because I don't know if you can technically call it a prequel. The series that was written by Matt Reeves, his version of Planet of the Apes, is technically a prequel to the existing Planet of the Apes. So if you consider those prequels, those are really fucking good. Those movies are better than they deserve to be. So we'll say that. And then also Richard Greeter said Blade Runner 2049 and 300 were definitely the best films of recent times. Blade Runner 2049, me and my sister went and saw that opening day because my sister and I kind of share the same taste in cerebral science fiction. She's the one that told me, she's like, dude, trust me, watch Deep Space Nine. I'm like, I sat through the entire thing, by the end of it, I was on the edge of my seat. So I usually listen to her, but she likes Blade Runner, and so do I. Blade Runner is not for everybody because it's a combination of cyberpunk, which is not a popular topic. And the reason that cyberpunk is not a popular topic is because cyberpunk very much does not believe in humanity. Humanity are terrible people. They're not long for this world. They're going to shed their existence for cybernetics. And it is very a grim, if you study cyberpunk, it is a very grim topic. I love the shit out of it because it makes for fantastic science fiction, but it's a very depressing topic. Okay. Also,
that's what blows my mind about Altered Carbon and why people latched onto that so hard.
The other one I want to mention too is film noir, and if you're not familiar with the movies like Maltese Falcon and some of the old movies that came out, if you're not familiar with film noir like the old Philip Marlowe type movies, that is not that whole concept. You're not going to grasp it. So you have to kind of appreciate films to appreciate Blade Runner, because to a lot of people it's just a boring ass science fiction, and I kind of get where they're coming from. To me, it's beautiful. I love it. But when people tell me that's not their favorite thing or they don't understand it, I'm not like judging them like, oh, well, you don't get it. Because a lot of the stuff that I love, I'm older. Some people just think it's overblown. Some people don't like Jaws. I adore the hell out of it, but it means more to me than it means to other people. And I'm at least intelligent enough to respect and understand that.
And for me, I have read so much dystopian sci-fi over the years. And Leo, I was talking about also the books. If you read the actual series books, it's so much better. The cyberpunk comes out more. But just to me, I've read so much dystopian sci-fi where humanity has destroyed itself and coming back from the ashes. It needs to be saved by an outside entity, such as an alien invasion. That there's so much that is out there that a lot of people would be just totally, oh my God, that's crazy. Look at the author David Weber and his Safehold series. There is so much you can do where you take and you destroy humanity and then have to build it back up. And that series is all about. It also throws in a gender bending robot. Yeah, it's a fun series. And
51 on Friday. Finally met somebody that's older than me that watches my channel. Yay! Yeah, we're both in our 40s. But you had mentioned earlier Altered Carbon. I kind of cut you off because I wanted to get my little bit about film noir out there because, like I said, that's not for everybody. That was very much influenced by film noir. But Altered Carbon is a fantastic, especially the first season. The first season,
yeah, the first season is almost
on Netflix. One of the best cyberpunks I've ever seen since Blade Runner, which is pretty much always the best one. But here you have a society of people that have discovered an alien technology where they can discard their bodies and imprint themselves on what they call a sleeve or a stack. I'm sorry, a stack, and then you can put the stack in a sleeve, which is like a new body. So people have developed the ability to live for thousands of years. It's insane, and it creates all kinds of different. It's like a whodunit, and it's like, is it this person or is it that person? What happened to their stack? It's fantastic. You got to keep on your toes to keep up with it.
Cyberpunk detective,
yes,
story that truly expands and creates a universe. It's world building as it goes. And
yes,
by the time,
that's what I liked about it. Yeah.
You hit the end of both the series on Netflix, season 1, and you hit the end of the first book, you're like, oh my, where? No, you can't go. And that's what killed me about reading the second book. And it kind of went and fell off a cliff.
Well, here's the thing too. Leia Red says, and now Netflix canceled Alter Carbon. Well, the reason they canceled Alter Carbon is because season 2 had a
Shit,
much lower budget, and I
shit
don't feel
the bed.
I didn't like it. Okay, and the reason I didn't like it, even though it did, according to Flair, because I haven't read the books. Okay, I know 2 people, including that have read the books, and says it follows it to a T. But the problem with season 2 is because of what we said, stacks and sleeves, all the characters change. So you have different actors on the show, and they don't carry the show near as much. Joel Kinnaman was fantastic. Once you take him out of the equation, it's not nearly as fun to watch.
But it also jumped a book.
It did. It's hard to follow too. I just found it. Because like you said, season 2 sucked. The reason season 2 sucked is you can tell lack of budget. There's an awful lot of tell and don't show, and it bores the fuck out of you. It's just constantly explaining things that we don't see, and it's really annoying. I'm like, had you showed me those things you just said, I might have been having a better time this season.
Well, if they had actually done the second book, if they had done it, because he goes off and becomes a mercenary. He literally takes the sleeve that he was given and leaves and becomes a mercenary out in the universe and creates the backstory for going into his own backstory. So it's kind of it's a story told in reverse, because literally it's a story told in reverse, but then it jumps to current day and tries to make it all work, and it didn't work. And to answer Bill, I'd do a one-on-one with you about Dune. I love talking Dune. I'll argue Dune till the day I die with people.
And we'll go back to talking about Dune eventually. It's just right now it's not really in the zeitgeist because it's been postponed so far off it's so far off the list now that we have to adapt. But one thing that we are going to start talking about is we're going to start doing reviews on The Expanse. Now, the difference between Alter Carbon and The Expanse is Alter Carbon gradually shows you the universe. The Expanse gives you the whole universe right at the beginning, and it takes you a while to process it because there's a lot going on. But once you get through all of that, it starts getting better and better and better. And what I like about The Expanse is each season builds on the previous season and expands. See what I did there? It expands.
And the hard part is I think for season 1, my only criticism of season 1 is they try to stick too close to the book.
Yeah, especially and I think with the Belter logo, like they have their own language and it's hard to keep up with.
I really appreciated when they stepped into season 2, and I know I'm going to probably catch heat for this, but when they gender swap the Marine, she is both a good-looking woman and she is a strong damn character that deserves all the laurels for playing that character. I thought she was great. I love season 2 for that. And I mean, I love The Expanse because it sticks so close.
That's how I feel about it too. I feel like each season got better than the previous one. And I found myself getting really attached to these characters too. That was my problem with Alter Carbon, is because of this universe, you replaced almost your entire fucking cast in the second season. I think it was too soon. I had high hopes for Anthony Mackie too, Leo Red.
My problem was...
But you replaced everybody else too. So it's like it doesn't feel like the first season. It's disjointed, you know?
What I loved about the second season, and I hate saying this, is I watched for the side story of the computer rebuilding himself, and everything else was kind of like, okay, I actually got to the point where I would fast forward through the main story and go to the parts where the computer was figuring out what was wrong with him and why he was,
That was the best part of the show. Yeah, was that, because
and
that was the only character they carried over from the first season too. So,
and I really that to me could have been a story unto itself, and
yeah,
I would have watched
just that, and I mean only that.
I have
Bill
to,
says, "What do you guys think about Raised by Wolves?" Not familiar.
never seen it.
Not familiar. Sorry, buddy. Richard Greeter says Star Trek and Doctor Who were ruined by politics too. Yes, that rhymed, by the way. Was that on purpose? Are you trying to make me rap? Star Trek and Doctor Who ruined by politics too. That's as much rap as you're going to get out of me. I don't get me wrong. I love rap, but I know better than to pursue a career in rapping. But
We're both white guys.
yeah, Star Trek is one of the ones that makes me really angry. And I'll tell you what. Got me back into Star Trek was actually the Orville. A bunch of guys on here were telling me, dude, you need to watch the Orville. And I'm just like, I don't know. I watched the pilot and I didn't really dig it that much. The pilot for the Orville is not great. It's really not. But the rest of the show is fucking awesome, all right? Because the Orville is 100% Star Trek. It's the Star Trek that we want. It's people figuring out stuff. It's ethics. It's making difficult decisions. The current Star Trek, they took all of that out and they just turned it into another goddamn fucking space opera with what's her name, Mikey Spock, Michael Burnham, whatever the fuck that actress's name is. I couldn't stand her in The Walking Dead, and as soon as I found out she was in Star Trek, I'm like, oh, it's gonna suck. And sure enough, it has sucked badly.
What I love about the Orville is it's both an homage to real Star Trek, but it also whoever's writing it literally took the Star Trek Richard Berman created.
Yes.
The moral quandaries.
Right.
There is no right answer.
Correct. Yeah, you don't always like the outcome of what you're going to get. Yeah.
No.
I miss that about old Star Trek. Yeah. But yeah, that show is great. It's going to have one more season. I'm going to be reviewing Orville on this channel as well. Me personally, I'm done with current Star Trek. I can't stand until they get rid of Alex fucking Kurtzman and all of his political bad robot bullshit out of that fucking show. It's not going to succeed because the only way you can fix Star Trek right now is you need to stop doing prequels. You need to get off the Enterprise bullshit, and you need to have it set in. It needs to take place after the Next Generation timeline. It needs to be in the future. It needs to be a different ship and a different fucking crew. Bring back the problem-solving elements. Bring back the. I'm not saying it has to be a complete without conflict like Gene Roddenberry wanted, because I thought Deep Space Nine did a pretty good job of having some conflict, but still having people be pure at heart. You need to have people go back to doing problem solving and getting along rather than just war, violence. And, oh, look, I said the F word today. It needs to get past that. Otherwise, it's not going to grow. Doctor Who, I gave it a chance, and I didn't want to judge the show based on them simply changing the gender of the Doctor, because I wanted to believe that maybe they would still have some well-written stories out of it. Instead, they went straight to political hot button of the week. They didn't waste any fucking time with it. It got right on top of the soapbox, and that was my biggest fear, and that's exactly what they did. And after about 3 episodes of that, I was done, and I haven't watched it since. It's sad being into stuff and then not being able to like it anymore because you feel like it's no longer for you. They've discarded your audience. They've discarded you as an audience for a younger audience, and they've in turn abandoned you as an audience member.
I think that's what I miss about a lot of these shows too, is the inclusiveness. Is you can watch old Star Trek and you can be from whatever affiliation you want. They tell a moral story and you get both sides to agree. And that inclusive.
That's something I've noticed about the Orville is they're bringing in current world politics, but they're doing it in such a way to where they're having you look at it from both sides and not always having the right answer. That's the way you're supposed to do that.
And that's what I honestly liked about both DS9, Star TNG, is there was consequences.
Yep. They didn't always make the right decision.
You know, you look at like when they introduced the Maquis, and you know this rebel faction that takes, you know, Federation technology and fights again, you know, and fights because they believe that there are some moral, you know, it's not always a moral gray area, and so the Federation doesn't know what to do with them, and they're sitting there going, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
I wanted to bring up something real quick here. You guys should review some Outer Limits, man. Who was never born and Nightmare were two favorites. What I want you to do, Richard Reeder, is go to Loitering in Wonderland. It's exactly how it sounds. I'm going to type it right here, Loitering in Wonderland on YouTube, because I am a part of that podcast. And if you subscribe to that channel, we actually do review episodes of Outer Limits, both old and new. Okay, Periscope wouldn't show it. But yeah, go to Loitering in Wonderland. I'm a part of that podcast. We call it the Anthology Podcast. We do Outer Limits, Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt, Alfred Hitchcock Presents. We're doing all of them. So make sure you check out. In fact, I have one on tomorrow night. We record Tuesday. We broadcast live, and then we upload the audio versions on iTunes. So just look for Loitering in Wonderland on YouTube or type in loiteringwonderland.com, and you'll get to where you need to go. But yeah, I'm a part of that show.
It's a good show.
I agree. Those things are fun. We love talking about old TV shows. That is my jam, 100%.
I miss the old. There was an old. I don't remember if it was Outer Limits or what's the other one that you guys did for a while? But it was the guy was a bookworm, and there's a nuclear holocaust.
Yeah, Burgess Meredith. Yeah,
and he needs glasses to read, and the quandary question at the end of the is this heaven or is this hell?
Yeah. It's kind of like Disney if you think about it, because it's like all they wanted was they wanted all of the market share of the movie industry, and now that they have it all, there's no more movie industry. Twilight Zone. Wow, it's really happening, guys. Bill Leavitt says Raised by Wolves is the new Ridley Scott show on HBO. That kind of worries me. For as much respect as I have for Ridley Scott, there's two sides to him. There's the fantastic science fiction writer / director, and then there's the guy that likes to constantly say, I hate God. He likes to take all of his movies to constantly remind you, I hate God. That's fine if you believe in a thing, but don't make all of your movies, especially your alien stuff, about how much you hate God, because not everybody hates God as much as you do.
I should label the baseball bat behind me Avatar.
Yeah. Avatar is another one. That's actually James Cameron, though. That's not Ridley Scott. Leah Red says, for the most
they're in the same vein.
Everybody agrees the only character they like on Star Trek Discovery is Commander Saru. I don't know. I've only ever seen one fucking episode of Star Trek Discovery.
Episode 3.
And that was I saw the one that they had on YouTube for about a day, and that was enough for me to know that I could not stand that show. I didn't watch Picard, but I watched a lot of reviews of it because I'm not afraid to admit my favorite channel on YouTube is Red Letter Media. I watch the fuck out of their stuff. I'll go back and watch their older stuff just to laugh. I adore Red Letter Media. So they reviewed Star Trek to no avail because Mike Stolasis on there, he's a huge Star Trek fan. So he watched Discovery and he watched Picard, and he hates the hell out of both of them. And he's not afraid to say why. And a lot of it's because the new Star Trek doesn't even have the patience to go back and watch the old shows, which are on BBC on rerun format all of the fucking time. There's no excuse why they can't watch that content. You can log into Netflix or Hulu or Amazon and watch old Star Trek any fucking time you want. You can turn on a TV station and watch old Star Trek anytime you want. They don't even follow their own timeline. They're just making shit up as they go and expecting you to blindly consume as if you're one of these Disney stans. You know what I mean? Like just suck this stuff up and don't question any of it, even if things don't make sense. They new writers, these lazy writers that you were talking, Richard Gere was talking about, they don't like to have to answer to previously written material. They don't want to work within those boundaries. That's why, if you notice, Star Wars, the first thing they did was dump the EU because Lucas went way out of his way to make sure all of those stories and everything had to work together. It had to be part of one same story. So once they disbanded all of that, and then they just cherry pick little elements out of it and change the stories, you screwed it up. You know, you could have made a decent Han Solo movie. All you had to do was follow the fucking books. The Han Solo trilogy was great. You know who the bad guy in the Han Solo trilogy was? Fucking Dengar. You could have brought Dengar in and had him be the villain, chasing him through 3 movies of Han Solo. Nope, you can't do that. Now it's a caterpillar, or it's a girl pretending to be a guy, or I don't even know who the fucking villain was in Solo anymore. I've completely forgotten. That movie was so boring. I was so completely checked out. And boring is not something would ever associate with Star Wars. As much as I hate The Last Jedi, it's definitely not boring. Pisses me off to no end, but it's not a boring movie. Okay, that's my rant.
I always said that if you took Solo and took the Star Wars name away and called it a space western, it would have been so much better.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the better space western was definitely the first season of The Mandalorian. And I think a lot of that was because Jon Favreau was a huge part of that. And Jon Favreau is one of the few guys out there that understands how fandoms work.
Yes.
Appreciates science fiction and knows how to work within those parameters. And everything that he's done within those parameters, save for the remake of the Lion King or whatever it was he did, Jungle Book, are all pretty good. Okay.
Actually, you know what? This is gonna be controversial. I at least with you. That Jungle Book remake was actually really decent.
Yeah, I went and saw it. That was before I was getting really tired of all the remakes. They weren't like that. That's part of the reason why there's so many of them, is because that one did so well.
Well, and that to me, I mean, it's again, you're gonna find that I'm a book geek. That if it was big, he went back and he actually read the book, and because he talked about it in an interview, that he went back and he wanted to kind of make it a little bit more adult, that more closer to the book, and so he kind of fell in that middle ground where it doesn't please the younger audience and it doesn't please the older audience, and so it kind of was like, which is really sad, because I honestly, for someone who has read the book, you know, I did enjoy the aesthetic he was going for. And that to me, you know.
So I think what's going to happen is at some point Disney is going to have to focus on how to win over an audience, because right now I think they've mismanaged everything, and now they're in a predicament that they can't help the predicament they're in, but they did at the same time put themselves into that predicament. So
they already killed James Bond. What are you talking about?
Also, if you guys haven't done it already, Leo Red was nice enough to put the link up for Loitering in Wonderland. It's right there. Thank you for doing that for me. Let's see. We'll go. Okay, so James Bond will be the next franchise to kill, but James Bond lost me when Daniel Craig took it over, rebooted the franchise, and ruined Blofeld. They lost me after ruining Blofeld.
Dude,
wow,
they pretty destroyed Bond.
That is a loaded statement. I don't particularly like Daniel Craig as James Bond, because I don't feel like he has any kind of the smarm or charm or suave type of things that they did with James Bond when James Bond first came out, because he was supposed to be a lady killer. I appreciate that they gave him a motivation. They showed the whole arc where he got married and his wife got killed, and that's why he became a ladies' man. But I don't buy Daniel Craig as a ladies' man. I don't dislike the guy as an actor necessarily. I just don't buy him as James Bond. I've given the guy several movies to try to make me appreciate him, and it's never sunk in. Never. Now, when I discovered James Bond, it was already Roger Moore. Like Sean Connery had already retired, so I started with Roger Moore. Some of those movies are great, and some of them are fucking terrible. All the Bonds have had good and bad movies, so I can't judge that, but I can judge each Bond by their own merit and how they act. What I want to happen with James Bond, Daniel Craig's leaving, so goodbye. I don't care what happens with No Time to Die. I've already given up on that. Bring back a James Bond that is fun. Bring me Henry Cavill. Bring me Tom Hardy. Bring me Cillian Murphy. Any one of those guys would be fine. I'd be fine with him. I'm okay with Idris Elba. Bring me somebody that has some charm. Stop making him a gritty, dark superhero. That's what I want to see done with James Bond.
Bring somebody who has the chops, the action chops of Pierce Brosnan, but had the one-liners of oh hell,
Sean Connery. Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, if you combine those two, I think you will end up with the best Bond ever, because the writing in the Connery version of Bond was okay, but it was that suave, debonair delivery of Connery that took it to the next level. And even he got burned in a couple of those Bonds. Brosnan brought the best movie-to-movie consistency to the Bond franchise. I truly believe that.
Now, the second part you said about the Blofeld thing, that's why I say that's kind of a loaded statement, because I absolutely fucking love Christoph Waltz as an actor. I love him. But I will agree with you that they bungled that reveal. The best part of the movie Spectre is the whole opening when they're in Mexico City during the Day of the Dead festival. After that, you can turn that fucking DVD or Blu-ray off, because the rest of the movie is boring as fuck. And they totally bungled that Blofeld reveal, because they should have teased him more. They should have teased him throughout other movies. I don't think that they let that, because if you notice, the last time they revealed Blofeld, it was probably about several fucking movies before you saw Donald Pleasance as Blofeld. So that was the big shocking reveal. And it's like not until halfway through the movie. In Spectre, you see Christoph Waltz right away. Like they don't tell you it's Blofeld, but your mind already tells you, well, that's fucking Blofeld. He's doing all the things that Blofeld does. So by the time they reveal his name, it's like, oh, well, that was the laziest fucking reveal in the history of reveals, you know? So on that one.
But that's what kills me about the modern Bond franchise is Barbara Broccoli has ruined it with picking piss poor writers and then
that Flair. You know how they keep ruining it? It's not just picking the piss poor writers, because honestly, I would argue that that's all there is piss poor writers. What they keep doing to fuck Bond up is they keep trying to make Bond into everything but James Bond. Like, you don't need to keep changing your franchise to chase other. They tried to make it like the Bourne. They tried to make it like the Dark Knight. They tried to follow that. Just, you have a pre-established audience. Just make James Bond. I'll be the first one to admit, as much as I like Pierce Brosnan, Die Another Day is not a good movie. It's not. But that's not because of Pierce Brosnan. It's because it was a badly written movie. It was a bad script. It had dumb villains, and it was fucking. And
they had Halle Berry.
Really bad CG and bad actors. Those movies have been made, and like I said, every Bond has had bad movies. It's not.
Oh yeah.
I never blame the Bond itself, but Daniel Craig has never fit that character for me.
No,
ever. He's never fit. He's too quiet. He's stiff. He's wooden. He has no smarm. He's not charming. He doesn't fit. And also, you got a movie about spies where they never do spy shit. They never do any spy shit in these movies. They're just action flicks.
The thing I hate about Daniel Craig is he is the same character in every movie you ever see him in. And I get so tired. He is supposed to be an actor, one who acts, who plays a role, not, oh, I'm Daniel Craig. It's kind of like what Vin Diesel's been doing for the last 10 years. Is he's Vin Diesel, and he brings an audience, and that's all these people care about.
And I think honestly that the Bond movies have been trying to chase that franchise too, because they see all the money that those Fast and the Furious movies make. So they keep trying to turn Bond into everything but James Bond. And then if you're going to have him to where he's like, respecting the women and not being a womanizer and all this kind of shit because you got to tone it down for the Me Too era, you're going to strip that character of everything that he represents.
I'm sorry.
Whether he's politically correct or not is irrelevant. He's still the hero of your story. Whether or not you agree with his politics, that's your fucking problem, not the movie's
exactly. Well, and then when they get rid of the surrounding characters, like Moneypenny, and I'm sorry, I loved Q, but I thought John Cleese as R was an inspired choice.
Yep.
Because he brought the humor, but it was
it was real hard to show up Ellen Lewin or where I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
But he was so great. And then they just wadded all that up, found the nearest garbage can, and went, we don't care.
This guy that we got right now is like a reject from The Office. It's like he's got the glasses. He's like an IT guy, and I'm just like, That's what you want to fix James Bond. You stop chasing other franchises and stop trying to make it like something else. I'll tell you right now, the last really good James Bond movie I saw was probably The Dark Knight Rises, because it's not a Batman movie. It's a fucking James Bond movie. That was Christopher Nolan. Let Christopher Nolan do a Bond movie. Let him do at least one. If he fucks up one, don't ever let him do another one. But
I don't own many Batman movies. Or actually, I'm going to be honest, I own one. And it is The Dark Knight Rises.
Love them, yeah.
Because I think that is the best Christopher Nolan movie on film.
It is. It's great. And it's also kind of a James Bond movie. So you can tell he's a fan of Bond because he kind of made Batman into like a James Bond kind of character. But then actual James Bond goes and tries to make their character like fucking Batman. I'm like, no, stop doing this. What I want to see James Bond doing, I want to see him doing spy shit. I want to see him doing accents. I want to see him wearing disguises. That's why they said, "Oh, hey."
I don't want him to be.
They might get Tom Hardy. Well, you know what? Tom Hardy's a guy that I've seen play all kinds of roles.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm okay with that. I could see him being James Bond. I could see him wearing disguises, shifting accents, getting in and out of difficult areas.
I don't want them to go to the Mission Impossible route either.
Right. Because, honestly, I'd say that Mission Impossible, those are more spy movies than the last 3 or 4 James Bond movies.
I'm absolutely saying they are, but Mission Impossible back in the day, if you watch the original Mission Impossibles, the TV series, it truly was a spy thriller. Well, that's kind of like the Bourne series. If you read Ludlum for what he wrote, the Bourne is a spy thriller, and it has good backstory. And while I truly believe what they did with Matt Damon in that iteration fits very well for modern culture, it's a great reinterpretation. The original books were spy thrillers for the 70s and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
With the Cold War, Southeast Asia, going that route, and it was an amazing book series, and whoever wrote the first 2 Bourne movies were out of this world, and then they got lazy too.
Kind of, yeah. They were fun, but yeah, it got kind of formulaic. I'll agree. Also, don't have Billie Eilish do your fucking theme song anymore. Half of what sells a James Bond song or James Bond movie is the song. And this song for the new one, I can't even listen to the whole fucking thing. That girl, Billie Eilish, she always looks like she's like lives in her pajamas and never washes her hair, and she sings like it's such a chore to sing.
God, I can still hear Tina Turner singing in the back of my head for that.
GoldenEye? Yeah, that brings me to our next quote here. Oh yeah, by the way, Richard Green, I love For Your Eyes Only is one of the better Roger Moore movies. My second favorite one would be The Spy Who Loved Me, only because it's so fucking ridiculous. The best James Bond was GoldenEye N64. I never had an N64, so
I didn't either.
I'll have to take your word for that one. Manliness Motivation, one of our regular watchers. For Your Eyes Only was one of my first James Bond movie. That was mine too. That was actually the first one that I watched. I remember when they used to play it on HBO. I love the song. I became a Sheena Easton fan immediately.
Timothy Dalton, the one in Afghanistan was my first.
The first Timothy Dalton joint. That was The Living Daylights.
Yeah, The Living Daylights. That was my first.
That's a good one too.
Because
I didn't like it when it came out, but I've actually come to appreciate License to Kill a little bit more later in life, because I always thought that movie didn't really feel very James Bond. It seemed kind of low budget, and I thought the villain was kind of cookie cutter in that one. But watching it as an older man, I kind of appreciate that more than I used to. Someplace around here, I have the original James Bond TV movie from the early 60s. Oh, you're talking about Casino Royale with David Niven. Yeah, I've seen that. Substances, if you got them, have a couple of shots before you watch it. Lower your expectations is all I got to say about that one.
I still the book is, and I'm going to say it. I love the books because they truly are not formulaic. They are truly spy thrillers.
So I think it's cool that we kind of turned this whole podcast into a James Bond thing. So that tells me that at some point, Flair, we're going to have to do some James Bond talk on here, because we got fans that like James Bond as much as we do, and that's cool. Hey, you guys like stuff? Leave comments down below. Make sure, I think I'm going to bring this one to a close because my throat's starting to get kind of sore. But I want to thank all you guys for stopping by. We had a nice little turnout tonight for this.
Thank you, Chad. We really appreciate you guys.
Movie talk. We love movie talk. Movie talk is what this channel's focus always is and always will be. So I realize I haven't done a lot of single release videos, and that's just because I've got a lot of things going on. I'm in a house right now with 5 people that are all sleeping different shifts. It's been hard for me to find time to actually record something that I feel is quality that I can put on my channel. But soon I will be getting back. And as I mentioned before, we are going to be doing releases. We're going to be doing reviews of The Expanse, both the old series, and we're going to live review the new ones. I'll be doing that with Nick Tam from the World Class Bullshitters. I might have Flair on there. I might have a couple of guest stars as well. I've got some people that are volunteering to jump on, and we might swap it up a little bit with that. And also every Friday night we're doing movies. We do what we call the Watch and Review, which is where we watch a movie. You watch it with us, and then you go to our website and score, and we read the score at the end. Last week we did Halloween 5, which was an atrocious fucking movie, and nobody liked that movie, and nobody showed up to the stream either. But if you want to watch it offline, go back there and hit a thumbs up on that. I'd appreciate it. This weekend we're going to be doing Hellraiser, which is one of my all-time favorite horror movies, easily in my top 10. Flair's not really a big horror movie fan, but hey, he is definitely a fan of movies, and a big part of this show.
And listen and learn. That's
I want to thank
you guys.
Everybody that was in the chat tonight. I'm going to go all the way through. Leo Red, Richard Greeter, Keely Chow. Keely Chow is one of our regulars.
Bill Levitt, Richard Greeter. Thank you guys so
Bill
much.
Levitt, Richard Greeter. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I love doing this. Don't usually have the Monday show be this long, but I will tell you this: if we get this kind of a turnout every Monday night, we will definitely keep the show longer, as long as you guys keep throwing us the questions. So, but as it is, I'm gonna bring this to a close, because, like I said, throat's getting a little dry back here, and I got to get up early tomorrow. So I want to thank you guys all for turning out. Make sure you guys have a fantastic week. Tomorrow night, make sure you go over to Loitering in Wonderland on YouTube. We left that link up there earlier. Just click on that. Loitering in Wonderland. Make sure you subscribe to them, and we'll be talking about 2 episodes from season 5 of The Twilight Zone. And then Wednesday night, we'll be talking about an episode that I picked out from Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Okay, the first Alfred Hitchcock TV series called Breakdown. I picked that one out. It's got Joseph Cotton in it, so we're going to be talking about that. That's the anthology show where we talk about Outer Limits and Twilight Zone and Tales from the Crypt and all kinds of other bullshit. And then, so make sure you subscribe to that. And then, like I said, come back Friday night when we do the watch and review.
Richard, is Sniper free on? Is it out in public domain?
Yes, because I do want to mention, Richard, that the movies that we do on the channel have to be not necessarily public domain, but they have to be in a fashion to where people can watch them for free without commercials. Otherwise, we can't really make that work. So I will start reviewing movies that we can't watch, like I did Life Force. If I could do a watch and review of Life Force, I would. This month is October, so we're doing horror movies. This isn't really a horror channel. It's just because it's Halloween and boo, spooky horror, so Hellraiser and Hellbound this week. And then we'll
have fun with the horror. We do a lot of Julie Strain and Andy Sedaris and all kinds of low budget trash that you love, stuff, Canon films, stuff that you guys would like. But yes, from yours truly, live from Joliet, Illinois, Flair and Groovinator, you guys have yourselves a fantastic week. Have a great Thank you guys. Good night.
Peace out. And where is my outro? Where did you go, outro?
It left the building. Elvis has left the building.
My outro. Got later, guys.
Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it somewhat entertaining. Please remember to depress that like button and subscribe to my channel for more content. Make sure you hit that bell icon so you'll be the first to know when new content is published. Please visit Raiders